Welcome back, guys. Unknown003 here, coming at you with another tier list today. So we are going to be running through my personal all-time favorite Mortal Kombat games, and honestly this is going to cover pretty much all of the games that I've played except for two in particular. And for the sake of getting it out of the way, I'll just go ahead and state now that Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero I have not ever played. I've seen gameplay of it, and I know well enough that it is incredibly cheap and very unforgiving in terms of the AI and also the movement. And with Mortal Kombat Special Forces, also have never played it, and I've also noticed how incredibly jank that gameplay is, so much so that I'm pretty sure that Ed Boon kind of denies having ever worked on the game. But yeah, those two we can obviously just get out of the way, especially since I've never played it before. So now we're gonna go into the mainline Mortal Kombat games, since I have played through every single one of them. And yeah, we'll start with the very original back in 1992 that started it all. Now, this one actually was the very first one that I played. However, I got into it pretty late. Seeing that I was like 10 or 11 or something like that. But regardless, it is very dated for its time. And when you compare it to the rest of the Mortal Kombat games, they don't really hold up that well. So for the most part, I'm just gonna say that it's okay. You know, I do not think it's a bad game at all, considering the amount of, like, it's the first one to introduce Easter eggs, and of course the secret fighter being Reptile at the bottom of the pit. You know, it added a nice little theory, or just a nice little, like, Easter egg for everybody to find, so that when they do find it, they go nuts in the arcade and everyone wants to see what's going on. So that was kind of a taste of what was to come throughout the later games as well. But yeah, in terms of the original Mortal Kombat, man, it was the granddaddy of them all. I do have a sincere respect for it, but it is only okay for me. Alright, so now we're going to be going into one that people will probably say is the best out of the original trilogy, Mortal Kombat II. And I could understand that idea, especially due to the fact that it introduced a lot of characters that are pretty much going to be like the mainstays throughout the franchise. You know, because with Melina, Katana, you have Reptile, you know, being playable for the very first time. Shang Tsung also being playable for the first time. And ultimately Shao Kahn being the big bad that is pretty much also like the imposing antagonist of the franchise. So a lot of good brownie points for this game alone. But good grief, man. Like, if there was a main detriment to Mortal Kombat 2, is just how incredibly cheap the AI or the CPUs are in this game, which can deter a lot of casual fans, and understandably so. I mean, if you were ever to see, or like if you do end up seeing arcade playthroughs in this game, you notice that a lot of people's kind of method of going through the arcades on a flawless run, for example, is to cheese the absolute hell out of the computers, which, you know, it sucks that you really have to rely on that, because I've never been personally a fan of repeating the same stuff over and over and over again, because ultimately it's not very fun to watch, and it gets repetitive after like the first match. So that's how it is. Hopefully with the Legacy Collection that comes out in like September, I think, hopefully that changes. But in terms of its legacy and the overall feel of MK2, it is an awesome game. Yeah, I would put it on awesome. I wouldn't put it on flawless, just because of the fact that I feel as if I haven't put a whole ton of time in MK2 because of the fact, you know, for those very reasons that I just explained. But I do have like an awesome amount of respect for it, even more so than the original. So yeah, man, I think it's worthy of awesome tier at the very least. So Mortal Kombat 3, this is one where I am going to go ahead and group it up with Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. And honestly, that's fine for me due to the fact that I haven't really put a lot of time into Ultimate MK3 since I didn't really have access to it. So yeah, a lot of my experience from the past is going to revolve around the original Mortal Kombat 3. So, I mean, fun fact for those who may not know, but Scorpion was actually not in the original MK3, which is insane to this day to think about, right? Scorpion not being in an MK game is absolutely wild. But that's besides the point. MK3, honestly, I feel like I've had the most amount of fun playing through in the original trilogy, just because of the combo system and like the potential that you could do with the combos. The AI is still admittedly cheap, but I don't think that it's as bad as MK2. So honestly, as a complete package, I would also put this on awesome. And it is damn near God tier or like flawless tier for me. Because yeah, I love this game over MK2 personally, especially due to the fact that I have more time invested in it. So I mean, when you also think of the setting and the music behind it, it's decent. Yeah, like when I think of Mortal Kombat music, I don't think of it as like God tier or anything like that. However, MK3 does a pretty decent job with its OST as well as the stages, which, you know, for storytelling purposes takes place on Earth because we're basically being invaded by Shao Kahn. So it's a nice little story progression in terms of the stages alone, and kind of with the story, because they don't really have like a full-fledged story to piggyback on, because it's kind of been more subtle behind the character arcades and stuff like that, which is, I mean, granted, it's what most of the fighting games do during this time anyway. So yeah, man, I have no issue putting MK3 in awesome tier, because as a complete package, I do feel like it's one of the best out there. But there is like one small little thing that just keeps me from putting it at flawless, which again, like the AI kind of hurts, but at the same time I don't think it's a deal breaker. So yeah, it's the best that I could give it for the meantime. Mortal Kombat 4, I think out of every single mainline Mortal Kombat game, I have played this one the least. And it's a combination of not having access to it, but also just not having the intention of playing it. Because yeah, dude, MK4 really feels like a glorified 3D version of MK3 with not all the benefits, unfortunately. You know, it was nice for them to bring back Goro, but honestly, Shinnok was never an imposing villain for me. They do kind of a better job with them in MKX in comparison, but I appreciate like the Bone Breaker system, I appreciate the stage fatalities in MK4, but that's honestly all I could think of to give the benefits to it. So unfortunately for those MK4 fans, it's a matter of my lack of experience with the game and also not really convincing me to play it. So I am unfortunately going to have to put it at bleh, because I feel nothing about the game. I don't think it's good, I don't think it's okay, and honestly, that's just my history with MK4, man. You know, it's always going to hold a special place in my heart just randomly running into an arcade and seeing the continue screen. You know, like a specific character falling down the well, and if you don't press the continue button, then it pretty much just get impaled on the floor. That's always been like the biggest or like the most memorable thing for me in MK4. But if that's the case, and if that's the best that it could do, unfortunately, that's just not enough. Alright, so Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. This would be the very first Mortal Kombat to be taken to like the PS2 era. And this one I hadn't actually owned for a while. But my first experience would actually be at a cousin's place. And we would kind of play it together, and I would see the, you know, the gameplay and like the popcorn fatalities, as I called it, because you know, the little guts and chunks would be just flown anywhere when you knock somebody's head off, you decapitate them, or you crush them with something. It was a little bit, it was pretty goofy. Who am I kidding? Yeah, Mortal Kombat wasn't really taken very seriously around this time, just because of how goofy some of the fatalities were. I'm looking at you, Quan Chi, with your damn giraffe fatality. Never forget. But I do feel like with Deadly Alliance, it was the first good step of the 3D era. MK4 pretty much kind of stumbled making that transition into the 3D era, but I do think Deadly Alliance did a better job. Although I do not think it's as refined as like the next game that we're going to talk about. So with Deadly Alliance, this one's tricky because, like, I remember Conquest mode is being a glorified training mode for people that are trying to get into the game, which they never advertised it as that, so it wasn't intentional. I'm gonna put this in okay next to the original MK just because I do feel like I played this one the least in the 3D era specifically, not counting MK4. But there were some little nuggets in there that I do feel that they did a pretty good job with. You know, like introducing brand new characters. Some of them being popular enough to show up in several games after this. You know, like Kenshi, for example. Natara finally making her comeback. Ultra also making her comeback. Su Hao being left in the dirt. With good reason. But, yeah, all that being said, it was surprising to me that they didn't have stage fatalities in this game, which is kind of wild to think about. But, I mean, they fixed that problem later. So, for this game, specifically, I appreciated that Shang Tsung and Quan Chi as a, you know, as a force was imposing enough. So much so that it transitioned properly into the next game. So, Deadly Alliance, you're alright by me. Alright, so Mortal Kombat Deception is one that I feel has been a very good step up from Deadly Alliance. Not just in terms of graphics, but also in terms of gameplay and overall feel of the game. It was nice that they added puzzle combat and chess combat into this so that it gives it more offline things that you could do, you know, aside from the actual game itself. The Conquest mode was a very big improvement because you had this kind of open world RPG kind of setting with the game, and with the Deception's main character Shijinko playing a very important part of it. It was a nice change, and honestly, if they end up bringing back Onaga as a villain, I really hope they make him pretty imposing, because Onaga is definitely one of those characters, just by design alone, that has a very good chance of going up the tiers of like Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung as some of the most iconic MK villains. So, fingers crossed, hoping that they could do that someday. However it leads up to Onaga's reveal, I will just wait patiently. But going back to Deception, man, it is a good, fun package. And they had honestly done a really good job with how everything was implemented into the game. So for this specifically, I will put this at good. Now, the tricky thing for me is that if I were to play Deception or MK2, That is a tough one for me, actually. You know what? I'll throw Deception up there. Above MK2, as a matter of fact. Because, again, I think it's just a matter of many of the other different things that you could do besides the fight itself that makes this game a little bit better than MK2 for me. However, I do feel like MK3 gives me more variety in terms of the gameplay that kind of lifts it up a little bit more for me than Deception. So, yeah, we'll run into a good game, I promise. But it ain't gonna be the next one, I tell you that. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks is one of my all-time favorite Mortal Kombat games because of how unique it is compared to the rest of them. And, I mean, it's not even a fighting game. It's pretty much a beat-em-up, co-op beat-em-up, as a matter of fact. And if you're not a die-hard Mortal Kombat fan, chances are, in 2025, you've probably never even heard of this. And it's a crying shame, because this really felt like a lot of love and effort was put into the game with all the references, Easter eggs, the gameplay, and the overall difficulty is. Because I do feel like it's a fair difficulty until you get to like Shao Kahn and his BS hammer. But I mean that's justified, right? You would want the final boss to feel imposing for a reason. And the story through this is pretty good. For its own standalone little what-if story, it's kind of a nice little story itself that kind of differentiates itself from like the mainline story that exists within all the other MK games. But yeah, dude, I love the amount of love, like just the overall story and the gameplay loop and the Easter eggs that is honestly littered everywhere. So there is a lot, like a whole lot of replayability with this game alone. And I have to put it on awesome, bro. It is just so good. And I have every intention of playing this on the channel someday. I just still need to figure out how I'm going to do it. But regardless, Shaolin Monks is goated for me. And honestly, not enough people know about this game. And if you don't, and if you've actually never heard of it, please look up gameplay in this game on YouTube or however. Because, yeah, man, if you're even a little bit of an MK fan, you're going to have a good time watching through the story playthroughs. And hell, if you even have the game, please play it. At least try it out, man. The worst you could do is say that you don't like it. Mortal Kombat Armageddon is such a guilty pleasure of mine. Because again, like a lot of it stems from the other gameplay stuff that you could do, like the content that exists within the game. I enjoy the crypt for the most part, unlocking things within a mausoleum. I have such a soft spot for motor combat, so much that back in the day, I really wish that they had a standalone motor combat game. Just basically an M-rated Mario Kart, where you would have like at least 20 characters or something like that, and many different tracks to just go through, because I had so much fun playing through that game, little side game alone in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. But it was really cool that they added damn near every single Mortal Kombat fighter from its history at this point. And the creative fatality thing, I understood what they were trying to do with that, but at the same time, I do feel as if it wasn't executed well. And so with that, it was kind of just left on the wayside even today. But aerial combat would make its triumphant return in MK1, as of recently. But I do feel the aerial combat was a decent enough implementation within Armageddon's gameplay loop. So I'll give her brownie points for that too, and a whole lot of stage fatalities in this one, man. They fixed the problem with Deadly Alliance for sure. So as a complete package, I know a lot of people don't really think of Armageddon that fondly, but for me, I am more than happy putting it at good tier just because there is a lot of replayability for me. The Conquest mode is actually really fun. You know, like the whole beat 'em up kind of thing. I don't think the beat 'em up aspect of Armageddon is as good as Shaolin Monks, for example, due to the fact, well, also a fact that it's not co-op, it's just a single player thing. But same thing, man. Whole lot of Easter eggs, side things that you could do, and overall complete package is good. And so for that, honestly, you are where you deserve to be, my friend. Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. Oh man, I have such a troubled history with this game because for the longest time I've never actually owned it, and kind of similar to Deadly Alliance, I initially played it through a cousin's place, or a different cousin for that matter, and we kind of played through it together. I had a good amount of fun playing through it. You know, I appreciated the test your might stuff, even though you would go absolutely ham on your controller. But even with that, like I kind of mentioned last week with the overall fighting game tier list, I've only played through the campaign once for each side. So one MK side, one DC side, and I had no intention of replaying through it because honestly, it didn't really feel that unique for me with, especially when you think of the other 3D era games out there, which I would honestly rather play more. So like Armageddon and Deception I would play sooner than MK vs. DC personally. And I've always found it odd that this was officially Mortal Kombat 8, despite not really continuing the storyline in any way. It's just its own little side thing. But anyway, I also don't hate the game, no matter how it sounds like or how I'm kind of like making it sound. It's only okay for me because ultimately, if I do end up playing through this again and I learn the combos and things like that, I will probably have a little bit of fun with it. So I'll just put it in the same realm with the original MK and Deadly Alliance for that sake. But hey man, a missed opportunity, and hopefully one day we could get a true Mortal Kombat vs. DC universe where they are not afraid to do like gruesome and violent fatalities upon each other, since that was also one of the main reasons why this game kind of flopped in the first place. Because who in the right mind would ever say that Mortal Kombat is a T-rated game? Because it ain't. There are many reasons why. Mortal Kombat 2011. I remember how much hype that this game had, because it was finally NetherRealm, or just the guys at Mortal Kombat, going back to the 2D era. And honestly, dude, it had so much expectations for it, especially when they showed the X-ray moves and like super moves and stuff, and let alone the fatalities. It had such high expectations that people would deem it impossible for it to be as good as it is. But the good news is that for me, it is a flawless game, bro. Like, this is my personal favorite MK game of all time. Its replayability is just, there's just so much to the game that you could do. You know, because you had to test your strike, test your sight, test your luck. The story mode, where it has an actual full-fledged story mode. Granted, MKDC did it first, but I do think that MK9 did it better in a lot of ways. So for that sake, bro, I cannot put it anything lower than flawless. You know, it deserves to be up there because there's just so many things to do within the game. The gameplay loop itself is just so fun to go through. I love watching combo videos in this game online because, I mean, for one, they're really hard. I'm looking at you, Cabal, with your damn dash cancels. My god. And Cyrax's bomb combo resets is actually wild and damn near cheap. I mean, if you've seen it, if you know what I'm talking about, you'll understand. But yeah, bro, MK9 is just so much. There's just so much going on to it, or going on with it, that I have like a severe amount of love and adoration for it. Alright, so Mortal Kombat X is probably the weirdest one for me to put in, because I have a lot of complicated history with this game, and it's not for the reasons you may think. You know, it's not that I like or dislike the game in a specific way, it's just more of me being unable to actually sink my teeth into this game because of the timeline that I was in. So, for those who don't know, well, for one, I'm going to go ahead and state it now. I am a former Air Force member, and I was trying to go through MKX, and I wanted to play it because it was released around the time that I was getting stationed, and I also didn't have an Xbox One at the time, so I had to wait quite a while for me to actually own one. But around the time that I did, I was already sinking my teeth into Killer Instinct, and then Injustice 2 when that came out. So it was a very weird history of MKX being just out of my hands, and more of just I was playing other things already. But as of recently, I have been getting more and more into Mortal Kombat X. If you had told me to basically place this on a tier list, I would have said that it was okay, if not good. And for that sake, believe it or not, I am going to put this on awesome. I love the story mode in this game as well. It is very, very satisfying to go through. The combos in this game is fast-paced as hell. Like, I think this is the fastest Mortal Kombat gameplay has ever been. And, I mean, the mix-ups are actually insane to read. Which, I mean, look at the best people in the world fighting in tournaments. It's hard to read, bro. It's crazy. And honestly, I do kind of wish that they brung back the speed and tempo of Mortal Kombat X to a modern, or like a new Mortal Kombat game. You know, we could only cross our fingers now, but yeah, bro, I'm glad that I have finally invested enough time in a Mortal Kombat X, because now I could firmly say that this is an amazing game to go through, no matter what character it is that I go through, you know, play with. It doesn't matter. I will absolutely someday soon go into doing our arcade runs with every single character. But the variation system has always kind of set me back a bit. But honestly, that's such a minor little nitpick that doesn't really take away from this being awesome. So, props to you, MKX. I'm sorry that I kind of neglected you throughout the years, but I'm here now. Man, I sound like a divorced dad. Mortal Kombat 11. You know, I remember around the time that this was released, people were very hesitant on, like, putting this in, like, a good position in a tier list, for example. And I could understand that, you know, because when you think of the combo potential with MK11, it feels very limited, you know, compared to the past two that we had just talked about. And I could understand that feeling. They changed up some of the things that are kind of mainstays now, and I have an appreciation for that. So, for those who don't know, I have actually played through Mortal Kombat 11 the most out of every single MK game on this list, and that's kind of crazy for me to think about, but it mainly derives from the amount of content that's within this. You know, when you look into the Towers of Time, the story mode, I mean, this is the first one to implement a DLC story mode with Aftermath, and the guest characters was actually very fun to go through. I have a particular soft spot for like Spawn and Joker, and a little bit of Rambo and Rain for the most part. But yeah, man, it's crazy. But honestly, the biggest highlight for me in MK11 is the fact that you could go through the crypt, and there's just so much to see, dude. Like, there was a lot of love and dedication to those that were working on the crypt that wanted to show as many little Easter eggs for the fans as they could, in addition to you being able to unlock gear and stuff like that for your character. So it was a nice little benefit for both sides to exploit. And you know, this is hard for me because I really want to put it at awesome, but I don't think it's as good as Mortal Kombat X. So for that sake, I will put it on good, but I have an appreciation for MK11 that is unlike any other. So yeah, that's honestly the best I could do. Now this one. This is the one that I've been waiting to talk about for a while. And I specifically held off on doing a tier list like this until Mortal Kombat 1 was finished, so that way I could give it a more concrete decision of where I want to put this. Mortal Kombat 1, for me, was probably the most disappointing Mortal Kombat game that I've ever played. You know, the amount of expectations that I had, the excitement that I had for this before it got released was next level. You know, I really appreciated the fact that they were bringing back a lot of the 3D era characters and making them playable in this game. But with that being said, I am gonna try to be as logical as I can here with Mortal Kombat 1, because this is anything but a perfect game. There are a lot of issues with this game specifically that I'm going to talk about. For one, the story mode. It really felt like a letdown. I understood what they were trying to do, trying to make it essentially the multiversal Armageddon with the vanilla story, and that the DLC story just felt like one of your average cartoon episodic series where you just get this big bad and then you just knock them out in the end and everything's back to normal. It's a very forgettable DLC story. And it's very unfortunate because I really wanted to like this game. I appreciated them bringing back like the aerial combat mechanics and polishing them and making them feel better to utilize, which, you know, I'll admit it is. But at the same time, I do feel like Mortal Kombat 1 just suffered from way too many problems for me to put it at good. And I know that's crazy for me to say, but I gotta be honest here, and I gotta play it with my heart. If anything, one of the best things that they had done near the end of its lifespan was implement Floyd. That was a nice little secret to have essentially everyone in the MK community go through. You know, making spreadsheets on like the little things or the specific steps that you have to take to unlock and fight Floyd. That was a really cool little thing for the community. But honestly, aside from that, Invasions mode got insanely repetitive. And it's just... dude, oh my god. It suffered from too much of those issues, and that really hurts for me to say as a Mortal Kombat fan. But you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and be nice and put it at good. But bottom of good for me, bro. Like, MK11 and Armageddon I'll absolutely play before this. Because, yeah, man, once Mortal Kombat 1 was officially done getting updates and stuff, I uninstalled it. And honestly haven't looked back since. So, if they end up doing something else with MK1 before their next big release, whether it's Injustice 3 or Mortal Kombat 13, I don't really have intentions of playing it. And, you know, that hurts. It hurts, but you gotta be honest with yourself, you know what I mean? So, alright. We have done it. We've managed to make this under an hour, so that's kind of a nice little change for a tier list, right? But, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Where would you put your, you know, Mortal Kombat tier list? How would you grade them? And also let me know, what is your personal favorite Mortal Kombat game? I genuinely want to know. And honestly, this could always change over time. And you know what? Here. For the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and re-look through everything and see if I want to change it. Let's see. Yeah, I have an appreciation for those. Mortal Kombat 1, X is pretty good. Deception, I don't know if I would... No, I think everything's fine. I'll play Shaolin Monks over MK2. I mean, because you're basically going through the Mortal Kombat 2 story in Shaolin Monks, but in a more unique way. MKX, I'll leave it there, though. I don't have a problem with that, so... Okay, now I'm officially done. Sorry. I tend to get in my way a little bit too much in these kind of conversations, so please forgive me. But yeah, that's my tier list. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What's your personal favorite Mortal Kombat game, and what would you change? Because I genuinely want to know. Ultimately, the thing about these tier lists that I want to iterate is the fact that these are obviously subjective, and I'm never going to have the right opinion on these things. I just go from my own personal state of mind with how I kind of place these. So if you think differently, please let me know, because honestly, it's important to have your guys' kind of feedback so that way I can think about it myself and maybe change it for the future. So yeah, man, I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan even to this day, even despite some of the recent setbacks and like some of the modern MK games with MK1, for example. But at the end of the day, I'm still a big Mortal Kombat fan, and that's not going to take away from that fact. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully you enjoyed that it was under an hour, because it could be time consuming and it could be a complete waste of time in general. So hopefully that's not the case for you guys. So thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. So be good and fight on.